Could everybody please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 21st Revere Traffic Committee meeting. I'm going to take everything out of order. We have a lot of people here from the Revere School. So I'm going to take up on the public hearings, item number 2. And this is a public hearing that will take place to address the traffic issues at the Revere School. Officer Giannino? Okay. I'm going to hear all the people who are in favor of changing the traffic plan first. Do I have anybody who wants to approach the podium? Come right ahead, Mr. Hunter. Where is the mic?
Hello, my name is Dr. Kelly, principal of the Revere School. We have been in now, this is going on our 4th year. In the first 3 years, this is always traffic everywhere. Traffic is, sometimes when you have that many cars, always a problem. But the flow of it really flowed when we could take a left only and go down. It allowed the parents many ways to bridge off of Revere Street, and it helped the flow of this. What's happened now, taking a right only, has caused really quite a bottleneck. The bus comes down Revere Street. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Ira. The bus comes down Revere Street, and now it has to fight the traffic coming up Roosevelt Street in order to turn into the school lot. So this is a safety hazard with the children crossing right here. This medical building, cars are cutting through their parking lot, coming down De La Russa Way, so they can make a U-turn to go right back up De La Russa Way, so they don't get in this bottleneck. I've had 2 incidences at the school where it was a physical confrontation. People's tempers are getting shot. People are getting angry at each other for moving because the flow of the traffic is not flowing. It is backing things up. One mother was in her car with her baby, and a father went over for her to move, banging on her window. She called me, and she was petrified to come back to the school. We're supposed to be a community school, opening our doors up for parents to feel welcome, and I got parents afraid to drop off their children. Last week, we had a parent, he pulled up at this medical building, and there was a confrontation with the neighbor at the house because he was parked in the middle of the street. They do park in the middle and block the traffic. We had to call the police. They came right away and responded, but I was, again, concerned with the safety of his child in the car, seeing this, and the father lost control, the neighbor lost control, one kicked the car. Languages being spelled out in the schoolyard with everybody to hear. So it's causing quite an issue. What we're here to ask is if we go back to the way we've been for 3 years with the flow of the traffic, taking that left-hand turn and not taking a right. I think it will help all this congestion. Today I did a video. I have a video to show you how this snakes back up all through Revere Street, down and around. And again, there'll always be traffic on Revere Street. We know how busy it is and how many cars flow there. But this bottleneck, when people can't move, we have 3 lanes of cars for teachers. We take these 3 lanes, and Ralph, you've been there to see this. We take the 3 lanes, and all these 3 lanes now have been congested because no one can move out onto Roosevelt Street. What teachers have to do, my teachers can't get in their classrooms. Again, another safety hazard for children. I have to have classrooms unattended. We start school right at 8:05. My teachers call me on their cell phones. I'm right on Revere Street. I can't get into the lot. They can't get into the lot because of this backed up traffic. So I have to find people to cover classrooms until my teachers can get into the building. it has caused quite an issue. The teachers now have found the way, and other parents, to come down the back way through McKinley Street. They're coming in the back, and you can see this car is going the wrong direction because there's almost accidents now. People can only flow out and take that right. I got cars coming in from the left and the right. I'm out there directing traffic, trying to help children to come into school, be safe, set their day off in a nice, manly way so they can start school off. I have parents that are aggravated, children that have no idea what's happening with all this yelling and commotion. It's really not a way to start a great, healthy day at a school. So I'm asking you to think about this in the safety of our children. I mean, that's why we're here. And I know that's why you're listening to us. And my teachers and parents are here. And we just are concerned. Always around a school there is congestion. I mean, there is. But it's the flow of this. I'm a little worried, and I'm glad we have this hearing this week and not with the weather. Within a week or two, I've been there for 3 years, and I watched the cars go up this hill. On a normal day when they went up it, because you could, if you were at the bottom, you could go up with the trout, and they can't. They slide back because of the snow. We've had to call the Sanders a couple of times. They'd come right out to help us, but the incline is just enough that everyone skids backwards. What happens with the kids crossing the street there? Last Friday, the crossing guard was not there, so I had to direct traffic outside with the stop sign. They're not stopping for me in the street with the stop sign. These children are out there, and the traffic is all flowing this way, so they have to cross across the street where the traffic is, trying to creep out because everyone's fighting and adjusting for that spot. Everyone's trying to fight their way out to Revere Street because you know nobody will stop and let anybody out. So that's a concern. So I want to thank you for listening. I do have a video if you want to see it, how this all snakes around if my drawing isn't up to getting an A for art. But we did try, just so you could physically see it. And any morning you can. Another thing that we have at the school, and it really helps, we have almost 485 students there right now, and on an average basis, there's over 100 cars that are dropping children off. We have been promoting the walk to school, and on those days, I stand out on one of the corners, and the street across Lowell Street comes this way. Cars are coming across down De La Russa Way. Cars are coming in up from Revere Street. Cars are coming down from Revere Street because you can only go in one way. And if I wasn't there on many of Fridays, I don't know how many children would have an accident or something happen. I'm there passing out tickets to walk to school, and my physical education teacher's on the other side, and we have seen many close calls where I've grabbed a hood of a kid and pulled them back because they're not watching, because the cars are in such a hurry, not letting each other in. It's just caused this bottleneck, and people are just fighting and nudging in to get their way in. So I hope I painted a nice picture that's not so nice, that you understand what is happening at the school. And before the bad weather gets here and we have more tempers flaring, we don't want that. We want a positive culture at the school. So thank you. Any questions? Did you want to see the video?
Oh, good.
Okay.
I've got a question. That's in the morning, correct?
In the morning. One of the things, in the afternoon it gets tight, and it always has, because there's very limited parking at the school. So we have allowed the parents to park along the fence and things. In the morning, we open every car door. We don't let anybody get out, anyone park. We keep it flowing. But they can't flow. There's nowhere to flow. Before, they used to be able to go right out these many ways. But we have staggered, it's not staggered school time, but we have enrichment programs. So about 200 students are leaving at different times. So at 2:45, we have about 225, plus about 70 students that take the bus in the front. So then at 3:45, we have another 200 students. So that all those cars are staggered. So going home, it was bottleneck going home, and I took pictures this afternoon leaving, but it's only just right at the end of the school. The morning seems to be the worst time for it. But after school, I think because the kids are staggered, it's a little different. You don't have as many leaving at the same time. Any other questions? Yes?
What have you, oh, it's loud. What have you done about the parents that are not paying attention to the rules and where they're driving in and whatnot?
I talked to them, we approached them, I called them. We've had, in fact, the parent that had that episode last week came in to apologize, and they realized, tempers flare, and people, when they're in a blind moment, forget their language and their control. But we've asked them, for the safety of the children, not to do this. I've asked many parents that are here tonight. They're here because they're quite concerned about their children.
Yeah, the other parents that are cutting through the
The medical
the
building,
doctor's office and all
We
those.
have put people there, I stand there on the Friday, that's why I stand at the corner, and I ask them not to do, I sent notices home, it's been in our bulletin. I've sent many notices, a phone call.
Because that could continue no matter what we do
Right, I agree.
with
And
exiting.
It's everyone, because trying to make this quick U-turn is what they're trying to do. I think if they had the access to the other ways, they wouldn't be trying to sneak out in the other way. They're trying to make this quick sneak turn. But we've been out there, we've sent notices home. Right. Yeah.
You've had 2 police officers generally.
Yes, we've had a lot of support from the police department. In the days, I'm at the back opening the car doors so we can keep this flow of traffic, and I can tell instantly when one of the officers, because of something that has happened, is not there, and if it's just the crossing guard, because her concern is the children crossing, not the traffic. And then it really bottlenecks. It's probably a good 15 minutes that it's up and around Delarusso Way and back on Revere Street. So the officers have been there. The days the officers are there, they keep that traffic really moving. And without them, I don't know what we would have done.
Okay, in the past several years when the traffic pattern was reversed, did you need any officers then?
No, we never had anybody there. The only time, and I can tell you the only time, and I think this is at every single school, is on that early 11:30 dismissal. You have 500 kids leaving at the same exact time, and everyone's in a rush to get their kids or the bad weather. But we have never had an officer. We've had them, my custodians and I go out on those days to help the flow. But that's because everyone's leaving at the same time. But never had anybody there in the last 3 years.
We've had cops at the end of the school day last year.
Only at 11:30.
Last year, at the end of the school year, we had I don't know his name, the Italian officer was there a lot.
Officer Delarusso.
He was there a lot of the days last year at the end of the school year, from May and June, the end of the school year.
But he was never out on Revere Street, Ralph.
No, he was in the parking lot.
He would be there to see what would happen, but he was never.
He knows, he was in the
We had a couple of rough kids. We had a couple of the children, children and things have happened. Middle school kids come over early and they come in. Officer Delarusso has been working with the school and he would be out in the schoolyard, but it was never there to direct traffic. He was never there for traffic. Okay, thank you very much.
Any other proponents, people who wish to speak in favor of changing the traffic pattern? Welcome, Lawrence.
My name is Larry Mininclery. I lived on Roosevelt Street for 50 years before they took my house. Now, one of the houses that was taken was mine. Now, I brought up all my children, went to that school, all my mother's brothers and everybody. My grandfather built the first house on Roosevelt Street. Now, in all the years, and when I went to school there, the school went to the 9th grade. So there was a lot more. People say there wasn't that many cars. That's a lot of baloney. Because some of those houses had 4 or 5 brothers, and they all had cars. So the traffic, it might be a little bit heavier, but it isn't that much heavier. We never had a problem going down and around because there was always more than one way out and one way in. Now they want to give you one way out. And like the principal said, in the morning, some of those cars, they don't want to stop for that woman. I mean, we're pulling out, and I got to stop. I got to jam my brakes on because the guy won't let me go. He just keeps going. So when the police officers are there, we don't have a problem. But they're not there all the time, from what I gather. And they can't be there all the time, and I can understand that. So the best way, and like she says, trying to go up Roosevelt Street in the winter with snow, forget it. Because not every car that picks their kids up and drops them off have four-wheel drive, or have front-end drive. A lot of them have regular, and you cannot make that hill. It's impossible. Like I said, I lived there for 50 years, and I know what I'm talking about. Going down Roosevelt Street, going around, coming up Cleveland Street, McKinley Street, you don't have a problem because those hills are not as steep. And the people can make it, or they can cut them back. There's an apartment house. They can cut them back at the apartment house, go down Horse Street, and go out all on flat ground. But the other way, it's all coming up Roosevelt Street, onto Revere Street, and it's ridiculous. And another thing, when you go to pick your children up, like she said, there might be 100, 150 cars, people waiting to pick their kids up. You pull in the parking lot, the police officer comes along, get in your car and get out. I don't care, move it. Well, I'll be here. He don't want to hear nothing. He just wants you to get up. But I says, I got to pick my children up. He don't want you in there. That I ended up in 2 or 3 beefs with him. And then I was told, do not go into the parking lot anymore. So I park across the street, and my relatives, who are the Biancos, I park in their yard most of the time. But this gentleman here, Jerry, when he's up on Revere Street, we have no problem. When the other police officer's up on Revere Street, we have no problem. It's when they're not there. And I've seen it, like she says, a couple of times. I've seen almost kids get hit because people don't want to stop. Like she says, they go down, because I go down the back way to drop my kids off in the morning, and I see what goes on. So the best thing is to put it back the way it was, let the cars have 3 different ways in and out, and you won't have no problems. I don't know who came up with this idea to go up Roosevelt Street and not down. To me, it was one of the stupidest ideas anybody ever come up with. So I hope you can understand all that and put it back the way it was, just for the safety of the kids, if nothing else, for the safety of the children with the winter coming. That's all I have to say. Does anybody want to ask?
I would, not that I'm defending the change, but I just understand there were other residents on the other streets that were upset by the impact of traffic as well. So just so you understand that. I totally agree with what you said about the cars up the hill and the quagmire, but there were other people that had been impacted by the school and going down up these other streets, and that was kind of the problem. And again, it's the individuals that drive with maybe not due diligence or care that have caused this whole problem, that they're not being policed, and I don't mean the police, but then they should be corrected. And these are parents. These are parents. This isn't the public coming in at general. It's the parents of the school that are doing all this because the way they drive and act.
You know,
Not all, I mean, a few.
Before they changed this around, most mornings I used to go out, I used to go up McKinley Street, and I never seen really any problems. People pull, because like I said, your only thing is you got a long line of people trying to get out. Maybe the people trying to get out of their houses weren't too happy with that. But as far as the traffic, there was no speeding, there was no problems. I was there, I seen a lot of it. It was because you had a long line of cars going up that street, and people couldn't get out of their driveways. That's what the whole thing was. Because some of them used to come out and beat their horn. Where you going? You ain't going to go nowhere. You can't get by. And they're beeping their horn. I mean, I've seen it happen more than once. But I mean, if those people are complaining, it's not because of people speeding or anything. It's because of people not being able to get out of their yards, out of their driveways. That's what it boils down to. Like I said, I've seen it, and most of those people, I know most of those people. And like, I just don't, you know, I can't see any of them other than being in a hurry. That's probably the only reason why they would even complain.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. I could tell you firsthand from the second day of school, the first day of the school, I was at the Beach Mont per order of Sergeant Gino and through the chief. From second day of school, I went down to Paul Revere. Sergeant Gino asked me to go down there per the chief's okay. I was down there for just up to the last 2 weeks. I am separate from traffic. I do my own job at the community police. I've been kind of busy, but up to that time, I could tell you firsthand, Ms. Kelly does a tremendous job out there. She's out there every day. And she's the principal of the school. She belongs in the school, not outside worrying about the traffic. And I've been in traffic for several years. I've been in the schools for many years. Now I'm in community police, and I can tell you firsthand, something's going to happen down there. They got to change it back the way it was. I know the people that live there are complaining. I understand that. You live near a school, it happens. You know, you got to put up a little problems in the morning and the afternoon. I've seen it firsthand myself, and I get a lot of help from Officer Marciello. We were there every day and every afternoon. Ms. Kelly will tell you. When we're there, it's fine. We get the traffic out, and we clear everything, and the kids are safe. We're not there, something's going to happen. And I can tell you all on the board here, the kids come first. That's what we got to think of the kids and the safety. You have teachers out back there supposed to be in the classroom. They shouldn't be worried about people. And the citizens sometimes don't listen to us. So how do they listen to a teacher? And like I said, I've been over this with Sergeant Genino and the chief. We've spoken about it. And our main concern to all you on the board here is public safety. Okay, and I know a lot of people that are part of here. I see a few people that are here that live on the street. They're not happy about it. But guess what? You live near a school, you're going to have to put up a little inconvenience in the morning and the afternoon. Sir, I understand. Sir, I'm just telling you.
Jerry, we'll stick to the matter at hand, please.
Sorry, Chief. But like I said, we're here, the board members, we're here, like I says, we're here to keep public safety. And my main concern is for the kids. You got kids crossing by the hand, just keep coming. The crossing guys got their hands full there. Cars are going both ways. You can't have it. The best way to do is go down, like it is, Del Russo Way, out to the parking lot so the kids are off the street, and they take a left. Like one of Mr. Miller Clary just said earlier, you have 3 ways out there. It's a little inconvenience, but what's more important? The kids come first. That's what it's all about. And like I said, I've seen it firsthand. I've been up there every day and every afternoon per Sergeant Genino and the chief. Just up to the last 2 weeks, because I have a lot of things I have to take care of at the substation here. But Ms. Kelly is out there every day. She does an unbelievable job. And everybody should definitely consider going back to the way it was. Any questions?
Have you ever done any traffic at the school prior to this year, last year, the year before, when they first opened it up?
No, Chief. Only if there was a crossing guard missed when I was in the schools, I was in traffic. If it was a crossing guard, we used to respond, but otherwise, no.
Okay, in the event that you were there, how was the traffic with the old pattern?
Just a general, during obviously peak hours, you have a little rush, but it was manageable. Obviously, you always have some parties that don't want to, like the chief already said, that don't want to comply, but that's going to happen. But we never had no problems down there.
So you could manage that by yourself?
Yes, sir.
Any other comments from the commission for Officer Salvati? And I'll just generalize myself, Jerry. I appreciate what you do, and we go back a long way back to when my kids were at the Lincoln School, and we had a similar situation that was ongoing then, and it was through your hard work and expertise that we were able to remedy those problems. So I value what you have to say here this evening, and I'll take that in strong consideration in making my determination of which way I'm going to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
You want to speak, Mr. Genino? Go right ahead, sir.
I'm speaking at the traffic division, not at the clerk for you guys tonight. I'm in favor of changing it back the way it was. Right? Revere Street, last survey, we have 9,000 cars a day on Revere Street itself. Bring it over. Can you hear me? That doesn't reach. Get a hold of it for me. Can you hear me now? All right. So last count, we had 9,000 cars a day Revere Street. And as Ms. Kelly hit with the backup in the morning, part of that 9,000 cars in the morning is at Revere Street and North Shore Road. That's where the biggest problems come in from. When the cars are backing up from Revere Street and North Shore Road, all the way to St. Anthony's Church. When we changed up the traffic flow for the school, we put all the cars to one location to come out. And it happens that the cars from North Shore Road are also backed up that same intersection. So anyone going right is not going anywhere. And unless Jerry's there to pull them up, make them go left, and then down the other side of Revere Street through the neighborhoods, they're going to sit there. We're talking probably 120 vehicles a day in the back of that school going down Roosevelt to come out 3 streets 2 or 3 streets. And we're not talking 1,000 cars. We're talking 120 cars a day, which is nothing. The first snowfall we get, and that road gets icy, we're gonna have a major problem down there. Major problem. And as long as we're there, we could pull them. The first day Jerry wasn't there, I got 10 phone calls. You know, why wasn't the crossing guard directing traffic? Crossing guards don't direct traffic, they cross kids. All they're responsible for, the white lines across the street. Not the cars coming out, the cars can sit there all day long. They're not gonna pull cars out. That's our job. As far as in the past, first week the school opened up, I was down there for 1 week, observing the traffic, the flow of traffic, no problems. Occasionally, we got a call down there for a car sneaking the wrong way out of the street. Would go down there, move the cars. It would last 2 or 3 months, solve itself. You know, periodic checkups, no heavy enforcement. I mean, I'd like to see it go back the way it was. Any questions? I'm done.
Any other proponents, people who are in favor of changing it back to the way it used to be? Please come to the microphone.
Thank you very much. Pauline Perno. I am a parent at the Paul Revere School. I'm also the PTO chair at that school. I have 3 children currently enrolled in that school. I am a Point of Pines resident as well. I am also in favor of changing back the traffic pattern the way it was for several reasons that have already been mentioned that I won't revisit, but also I also sit at the corner of 1A and Revere Street in the morning, upwards of 20, 25 minutes. I choose to do that so that my children can get to school on time safely. I do that when I get up. I sometimes go down in the back on the opposite side across from the school, and I do walk my children, and I walk them across Revere Street, down the hill, and into the back, purely because I've been in the middle of parents fighting, parents opening and closing car doors, parents not wanting to let their children out at a specific spot and are waiting to pull up or around. And once that pattern, once those cars are at the top of the hill at Roosevelt trying to turn either right or left, nothing moves. So you can sit on Revere Street all you want trying to get down De La Russo Way to get in to drop your children off, but if no cars are coming out, either right or left, then you're not going to go anywhere anyway. I've made a different choice. I've made a personal choice. I walk my children. On the days that there is a crossing guard, she's wonderful. I feel badly that people have been so rude and so incredibly mean to her. When we have an officer there to help direct traffic, to stand at that nice integral place, things run smoothly. I think between changing it back to the old pattern, putting an officer there in the morning would help to solve a lot of problems. The other thing, and this was my naivety, coming from a different town, moving up here, and when my children started school, I was not aware that there were actually more side streets off of Revere Street that once you take a left out of the parking lot to go down, that there was McKinley, and I don't even know the names of the streets, but I do know that they exist now. Maybe some additional education, if the traffic pattern does go back, to let parents know that you don't just have to go up McKinley, that there are other alternatives, because that's something that I didn't know. I admit it. You live and learn, but I'm living and learning through my children's eyes. They watch this every day. They shake their heads and say, how does Mrs. Kelly do this? And it's because she has such a strong will to make sure every child in that building is safe. That's my piece. Thank you for letting me speak. Have a good evening.
I think I can put somewhat of an end to this. I was the one, along with several neighbors, that got a hold of me and asked me, as their ward councilor, what can we do with the traffic impact that's impeding coming on the new part of your school? I said there's a lot of options, and we came here, and I came with a very creative plan to make one-ways throughout the area, and that fell short of being approved, and I agree with you. Now, I said, and I predicated my comments at the hearing that was conducted in reference to changing it this way is, let's see how it works out. So now we know. My comment was, this is not etched in stone forever. Let's try and see if it does alleviate some of the pains that the people who live and reside around that Paul Revere School, which are very, very important to me because they are who I represent. Most of these 100 people that are using their automobiles to reach that property don't live in that immediate area, with the exception of my dear friend Larry, and I think the world of him, and he has every right to feel the way he does. We offer a difference of opinion on this particular case. All I was looking for was for public safety. It was made mention of the fact that people can't get out of their driveways. Well, you know something? That's pretty important. You can't get out of your driveway? You're going to be stuck in there for 15 minutes and you're going someplace? That's pretty important. It's pretty important to deliver the most important product we all have is our children to the school in a safe manner. That's all this was ever intended for. This wasn't me against them, me against the school system, me against the traffic division. I want to work with everybody here. I want to come to a conclusion that's best for everybody. But I want it to be known. I represent the people of Ward 3. I represent the people living around that plant. It's a building of learning. And it's unfortunate that some people delivering their children to this school act the way they do. They ought to seek classes of anger management. Now, you made mention to the Lincoln School. We had an issue up there, and I worked with this body to get the street turned into do not enter during school hours. And the people in Grays Road can now finally live in their homes with a quality of life that we all want to enjoy. But I understand and I appreciate the fact that Barbara Kelly does yeoman's work in servicing our community and delivering a quality product to our children through education. And she does an unbelievable job. The police officers assigned to that do an unbelievable job. I see it daily as I go to work in the morning. I see the cross guard experiencing the pain. I see Tony, the animal control officer, there. I see Jerry Salvati there. I don't want to see all this conversion of police personnel at a school site. I want these police personnel protecting the people that I represent. So if this doesn't work, I come right to you and say, let's end it. Let's change it. Let's go back to the way we were. But, you know, not given the effort to try something to alleviate some of the pains that those people live with on Cleveland, McKinley, shame on me if I don't do this. Roosevelt Street, they can't get down. They can't get out of their driveways, as was testimony offered. The very fortunate part about that is some of the people now on Roosevelt Street don't have cars. But, you know, and again, we have a very, very busy store called Bianco's that has trucks that are in that immediate area during school children hours. That adds to the impact of this particular thing. We're not telling Bianco's to move. I'm asking, and I represent people in the Ward 3 area, and I'm going to fight for every time they have an issue, I'm going to address it. Shame on me if I don't. But if it doesn't work and it's not safe, then we have to do an alternative. And the alternative of this is putting it back to the way it was. And I wanted to get up and say this right away, but it was also educational and for not only for you, but people that are viewing it at home to see what the pains we're going through for this development. So I'm all for changing it back to the way it was, and it wasn't a foolish idea. Anytime you represent an idea for public opinion is not foolish. You're trying to do something. The thing I could have been is complacent and said, well, we'll get to it, and never get to it. I mean, I could have chosen that avenue, but I didn't want to do that. I think this is the right thing to do. We understand what took place, and change it back. Simple as that. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I thank you. And my batting average is pretty good on the Traffic Commission, by the way. I'm batting 0 for 95. But can I ask one other thing while I'm up here? I am in favor of item number 1 from the public hearings for the handicap parking at 24 Larkin Street. I'd like to be recorded as in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, this is certainly a recognized dilemma. The fact that either way, there's a traffic problem. And I can sympathize with any residents that have a concern. Our schools, and all of them through every district, every school, our schools create havoc on traffic. It's everywhere, and all of you folks know it. Broadway's a mess all the time. Around the high school's a mess, the McKinley School, it doesn't end. But when we're caught with decisions like this, these dilemmas in school, and it's even between things that we're supposed to do as union and administration and management, or management and management, and we're struggling over an idea, we drop all things and go to what we call our moral imperative. And our moral imperative is a very simple statement, and it usually cures all problems, at least in the school department. And the moral imperative is, okay, we're at a standstill as adults, figuring out which way to do business in the schools. Let's go to the moral imperative, and it is what is best for kids. And I look at this situation, and this is certainly a safety problem. It's a problem in that what was a 20-minute process of come, drop off, get out of the area has blocked that area off to at least a 40-minute problem because of that Roosevelt intersection. More than that, it is a problem on safety. As the traffic stalls on Revere Street more than it ever did, we have kids that see stopped traffic and they don't wait to get to crosswalks. They start to walk between cars. And our middle school kids are doing it on Revere Street more because the traffic's not moving as much. So we're finding situations, and the bus drivers are finding situations, where kids that would go to a stop normally and cross at the place see stopped traffic everywhere. They're cutting between cars going east, because that's where it's crowded most. And then the cars coming west that are going fast, and one of them's going to get picked off that way. Or just the mere intersection at Roosevelt Street with the cars coming out and blocked, and the number of people that cross Roosevelt. It was a silent intersection for crossing almost in the last 3 years. There wasn't much action happening there because traffic was coming down and not much came down. Now, with all the traffic going up and kids trying to cross, that's a dangerous intersection. And the slowdown of traffic down at Del Russo, or whatever it is also a problem. So the problem is with safety of kids. There's not only a problem around the school and in even the greater neighborhood. Our buses that are going to other parts of the city, and our small vans from vendors that are taking kids out of the district to other schools, are many of them that use that route are now running late. So we have problems with our buses getting to other schools that are coming out of the Pines, or picking kids up on Revere Street that have to go to Garfield, or they have to go out to Susan B. Those buses are all running late because of the new traffic problem on Revere Street. And what it means is, okay, we're not only going to, if things stay like they are, we not only have a cost of safety potentially with police officers, but we've got a cost where these buses are extended, kids have to be out earlier, out in the cold earlier, out in the cold when it's darker, getting on buses so that the buses can potentially beat that jam so that they can get the kids to school on time. So the problem can't just be thought of as a local problem, although it is a local problem and it's a dilemma. And it's sad for the neighborhood, it's sad for the people in the school, but it's also sad for other hundreds of kids that are on buses that are being held up from attending and getting to school on time, and even holding up special students that might be traveling up to Beverly for a special school or somewhere else. Everything's tied up that's in that area right now. So I think this was a predictable problem. I can remember sitting on the building committee at the time, in discussing traffic in the area, and the plan that was made because of this very problem, the fact that Revere Street would be a roadblock if it happened, and it came to be true. So I think the try was a good one. You know, if it worked, so be it. It would have helped people as long as everything else wasn't impacted. But you have another ripple effects of this, I think, that are greater than the original problem of having people, you know, heading, what would it be, south on, or southeast on Roosevelt, going down. So I would, for safety's sake more than anything, recommend that we go back to the previous route of left only out of the parking lot onto Roosevelt.
Name and address for the record, please.
20 French Street, Alex Turco. Miss Kelly, the principal, I've been living there for 5 years. My brothers reside there for over 20. Both of his kids went to school there. Since they built the new school, originally they weren't supposed to have any cars flowing. The gate was supposed to be closed at the bottom of the school, at the bottom of Del Russo. They were supposed to come down Roosevelt, go through the horseshoe, go up and out the other ways. All of a sudden, the gate's open all the time. My biggest dilemma is the street has parking next to the medical school, medical building. Parents are these are the most arrogant people I've ever run into that drop off these kids. They show up a half hour early. They park in people's driveways. I've had an incident. My nephew was in the garage working on his car. A parent parks in the driveway because his car was on a lift. Told him to move. Guy comes in and approaches him in the garage, in the house. He was by himself. If it was a different situation, it was me, it would have been a different turnout. It's just these people, they don't care. Ms. Kelly's told them to drop your kids off and keep on going. They park wherever they want, in the middle of the street. If you're going to use it as a two-way street, there shouldn't be any parking on the street whatsoever. We have driveways, we park, it's a dead end. They've literally, Billy T's, they have a parking lot in the back. We have our car parked in the front of the street. A parent will come and park right next to our car, and that causes more traffic jams because they're showing up early. Now, the parent that said she comes and drives from the Point of Pines, I now reside on the back river of the Point of Pines. They drive down there. She's letting them walk, but where is she parking her car while she goes to walk them to school? In front of someone else's house. When we come home, we can't park. Half of them don't live in the neighborhood, so it should be drop off and keep going. After school is it's another issue of parking because they come early. In the morning, it's just congestion from going to the beach, people going to work. It's a mess. And that Roosevelt has to be a two-way, just like Del Russo's a two-way.
I'm going to have to interrupt you here because we have a very long agenda here this evening.
And
the issue this evening is to revert it back to the way it was.
And I think that
some
would
of these
work.
other issues that you're concerned with may be something for another night with another traffic meeting for French Street.
I would like to see it go back to Roosevelt being a two-way street, or just going to, or during school, they have to take the left.
Take the left. That's what we're going to at this point.
Because other than that, it's just a mess.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yes, would you, Smith? Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. She's been waiting.
Hi, my name's Elena Martinez. I'm an out-of-district parent. I live at 45 Butler Street. I don't know if I'm for or against, but this is my issue. I drive, obviously, because I'm coming from over here every day. What the problem used to be is that with their exit, I don't know the name of those streets. You know those streets,
Down the bottom.
Yeah.
Cleveland and McKinley, that's where the traffic used to go out of?
Yes.
There's no crossing guard there before. You would have the same parents with their own agenda trying to get into Revere Street, which is always mobbed, we can always agree, with kids crossing. No crossing guard. Last year, mounds of snow. It was so hot, it was very dangerous. Now, at least, the traffic is going one way, and the kids are crossing with a crossing guard. I understand it's a big traffic problem. You know, I know there's cars everywhere. I sit in that traffic for 10 minutes when I'm coming. But you're gonna have, if you're gonna go back the other way, you need crossing guards at those other two streets. And if you're gonna keep it this way, then you need a crossing guard who's gonna be a little more heads up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, at this time, because we have sent a lengthy agenda, 1 second, Ralph. All those people who are in favor of changing the traffic pattern, please raise your hand. Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to close that side of the hearing. I'm going to open it up to the other side of the hearing, those people who are against changing the traffic pattern.
Ralph DeChico, Washington Street. First of all, no disrespect, we can agree to disagree on this. I'm sorry for the outburst, but I just took exception to saying the residents, it's an inconvenience. The reason why I had brought this up with a lot of the residents in the area, my feeling was different than a lot of the other residents. Number one, when we made these, before the school was built, we had the meetings, we had the discussions, the signs were going the wrong way. That's water under the bridge. My main concern, I'm on a dead end, it does not impact me. The problem that I had, that she just mentioned, there are no crossing guards on the lower end of Roosevelt, Cleveland, and McKinley. You don't know how many kids walk there. There are no sidewalks. I've seen almost, I don't know how many accidents I've almost seen. I have a little plow truck. Last winter, I cleared everything on those corners because kids can get hurt over there. We have no crossing guards. That was my main issue. I didn't care about going through the streets. Number one, you shouldn't go through residents, but if you have to, you have to. But everybody's saying it's a safety issue. How is this a safety issue by going that way? If we had cross guard down there, I could see it's fine, but we don't. There are a lot of kids that walk that way. I called the counselor numerous times last year that I've gone out there myself and stayed down the end of that street because you had cars coming from both directions trying to turn from Washington to Roosevelt, and you know how many near misses kids would have gotten squashed there. Is it going to take one of these children to get hurt for people to realize that it's not the neighborhood that is against cars going through the neighborhood? If we can have a crossing guard down there, if you look at all these other schools in the city, I just did a summation. The Lincoln School, I think, has at least 3 crossing guards. They have one direction in, one direction out. They don't have multiples. The Susan B. Anthony, I believe, has 4 crossing guards through the school. The McKinley, I'm not sure how many they have. They have one way in, one way out. Garfield, one way in, one way out, and they got numerous crossing guards on North Shore Road. We have one at the top of Roosevelt and Revere Street, and supposedly the one on North Shore Road is considered ours. That's our main issue. That's why I take exception that they say it's the residents are against cars going through the neighborhood. The real thing is children's safety. If everybody was about safety and not having to sit in traffic and wait for that, that's a different thing. Safety is children. How is it going to be? We're going to have cars. All right, fine. So basically, out of sight, out of mind, that's going to cure everything? I don't think so. So we're going to move the traffic from Roosevelt and put it to McKinley and Cleveland and not worry about the children that are going to be crossing over there. That's my main concern. Whether people can yell at me and say the neighborhood don't want the traffic, it doesn't impact me. I'm on a dead end. I'm by myself there. I see the kids that are walking there that nearly get hit all the time walking there. We don't have sidewalks. People are parked right up to the street and on the thing. There's not one sidewalk over there for these kids to walk. That's the main concern. That's why I took exception, and I apologize for my outburst when they said the residents don't want it going through the neighborhood. Deal with it. That's not the problem. That's not the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other people who wish to rise and speak in opposition to the change? Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close that side of the meeting, and I'm just going to make a quick comment because we have to move on. I just want to get back to what Dr. Dakin said. I think if this plan had probably been implemented initially, we would be back here anyway to change it. I spent some time down there with Officer Salvati, Officer Giannino. My main concern is fast approaching, that if we ever do get some ice on that corner and we can't get those cars out of there when school's getting out, you're going to have total gridlock in that area. You'll lock down that whole neighborhood. Public safety vehicles, police, fire, that nature. We've gone through this before. Dr. Dakin and I have talked to this on many occasions about how we're going to let schools out early. We've had buses have numerous problems under these. These are ideal conditions for creating gridlock in a neighborhood during an ice storm and snow that mist. So I'm going to make a motion, even though I respect what you say, Ralph. I understand where you're coming from. And Arthur, I think, he was just looking for change to help the people. It's something that we were looking to the better good for the neighborhood. Just didn't work out. The plan just didn't work. We made an effort to see if this plan would work better than the other. It just didn't work that way. So my intention right now is I'm going to make a motion that we revert back to the way that it previously was when the school first opened. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it. So we will be going as soon as possible. Okay.
I would just ask Mrs. Kelly and Dr. Dakin, do we have to have a lot more information to the parents then? And to stress this fact that...
Because this has to happen
This is
quickly.
not just the traffic, it's
Right.
an attitude and a pervasive attitude, you know? So that has to go out to the parents. I don't know, we can't punish them, but maybe they're not allowed to drop their kid off. I don't know. That'll be up to Donnie to change the signage.
We'll take care of it right away. I'll see, actually, we'll do it for Monday, start of school. Okay. Okay. Paul, Dr. Dakin.
Can we take up the next one for the Hill School?
Yeah. Dr. Dakin, we're going to work for Monday. I don't know who's coming in from my sign department tomorrow. If they're there tomorrow, it'll be done. If not, take care of it by Monday at the latest. I'm afraid we're anticipating some ice maybe next week, so I'd prefer to get it done as quickly as possible. I will. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to suggest that when we decide to implement the change, we'll have some additional officers present to help facilitate that. Right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Getting back to the regular order meeting, we have a long agenda here this evening. At this time, I'd like to call a public hearing to take place to implement a traffic plan for the new Hill School. All those in favor of implementing the New Hill program, please come up and state your case. Paul, you need, if you want. You don't, if you want to. No, it's not a two. It's a two-way. But during school hours, you have to take a left coming out. Coming out of the parking lot, Nick, you got to take a left. Yes. Yeah.
The 20-mile-an-hour lights are out.
Yeah, it's broken. It needs about $20,000 worth of work. It's not cheap.
I guess we'll be fixing that this weekend.
Well, I'm putting in my budget this year. You know, they could. Name and address for the record, please.
Scott Wooden from DRA Architects. My address is 28 Bear Hill Road in Framingham. As most of you know, DRA and our consultants, Niche Engineering and Warner Larson Associates, transmitted the plan that's before you here on the floor to the city clerk's office this week, so it's been on an exhibit since the beginning of the week for the public to come in and review it. It basically identifies the proposed traffic patterns for the new Sergeant James J. Hill School on Park Avenue and traffic patterns, proposed traffic patterns, and signage for the surrounding neighborhood. There's, I believe, as everyone here understands, there's still some decisions that are sort of pending that may not need to be made by the time that construction starts in February, but will probably need to be implemented on adjacent streets and in the adjacent neighborhoods prior to the school opening in fall of 2015. So the plan below basically shows the traffic pattern that we've discussed at our preliminary meeting with the Traffic Commission. And is it okay to have it oriented this way? Or should I? Okay. That basically there's two inlets into the site and egress points from the site, one on Park Avenue here, one on Fernwood Avenue here. The proposed traffic plan is that cars will can come in from both points drop off children. If they come in from Fernwood, they have the option of either dropping off at the north side of the site, taking a U-turn right here onto Fernwood Place, and exiting directly out to Fernwood Avenue. The other option is that they come through, if they want to drop off at the front of the school, they loop through here and come right up to the front of the school. There's a large drop-off lane right here adjacent to the main entrance where the administration area is. There's been discussions with the school department that there would always be administrators all along this edge helping out with the traffic flow and getting the children out of the vehicles and into the school safely. The other traffic pattern is from Park Avenue. You come into the site here and you enter into the large loop that comes around, drop off in front of the building, come back out to Park Avenue. As both of these driveways or roadways discharge to the streets, we've discussed having a right turn only, and there's signage identified on the construction documents for that to be right turn only onto Park Avenue. Up here, the street currently has a strange one-way leg here. It's two-way from the driveway into Walgreens, or even beyond that, it's two-way, I believe, out to Broadway. And then there's a one-way section that goes back to Fernwood. The proposal has been to make this section two-way, so when you came out of Fernwood Place, you would have either the option of going to Broadway or the option of coming up Fernwood. This would continue to be one-way up toward, it's Alston, right, up at the top. Some of the traffic improvements that we have identified are, let me bring up this plan for a second. Our two crosswalk locations, one here at this end of the site, adjacent to the sort of the back of the apartment building there, and then another one right adjacent to Foster Street that would bring you right to the main entrance to the building. We've talked about having flashing school signs down the street, Park Avenue, in either direction from the crosswalks, and various signage throughout the site in terms of directionality. Yeah, and I think that's about it. With the contract documents that'll be bidding in the beginning of December, we'll have all of the traffic markings identified on that, as well as a signage plan with all of the signage locations. We've talked about having signage here that would be emergency vehicle only and MBTA access, so that the parking lot to the fire department, between the Walgreens and the fire department, that area isn't used for egress from the school. That's been a concern. Hopefully we'll manage that with signage and administering it over the first few weeks that the school's open, so it can sort of set a precedent. I think that's about the overview, yeah. There's one other thing to it that I'd like to mention is that following our last meeting, there was a study done by the landscape architect just in terms of the width of Park Avenue, because there was some discussion if there was enough. Right now, it's striped for 2 lanes and 1 parking lane along the south side, and there was some discussion as to whether you could get a drop-off lane along this side for the school dedicated and striped, have the 2 travel lanes, and then parking on the opposite side. And there is space for 2 11-foot travel lanes and 2 8-foot parking / drop-off lanes. So it could be restriped to make it safer for drop-off along that edge for parents. So we have a few representatives here from Niche Associates, the traffic engineering firm that we've worked with, and they've given recommendations in terms of the traffic layout, if there's any specific questions.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Fernwood Place, we have egress only coming out of Fernwood Place onto Fernwood Ave.
That is correct.
1 lane. Is it wide enough to have 2 lanes So you have right-hand turning lane and left-hand turning lane coming onto Fernwood Ave. Cars who want to go right towards Broadway and left onto Fernwood Avenue out into the neighborhood. That would increase our capacity for vehicles leaving the site.
It looks like there is. I'd have to study that a little bit closer, though. It looks like it's pretty close to being on the line. I think that's how we originally had it. We usually had it with 2 lanes there because it was bidirectional. So you're suggesting having it still one way, but two different turning lanes.
Yes.
I think we probably could accommodate that because, like I said, I had 2 lanes before going bidirectional. So,
Isn't that one way from Walgreens to Broadway? Or?
The plan is to make it 2-way from Broadway to the first entrance to Fernwood Place.
Right.
2 ways.
2 way this way. Yeah.
And 1 way the rest.
1 way the rest, really this way. Yeah.
So, we've changed this 27 times. All right. I'm in favor of this, but we're going to catch the residents that are there and the councilors here. So if you want to address that, do you understand? All right.
This will be the last time we change it.
The last time.
Are there any other people in the audience who wish to speak in favor of the traffic?
Oh, this is on. Okay, good. We had a lot of trouble with this last night. Anyway, Council Stephen Reardon, 347 Vane Street, Revere. We have gone over these things pretty much quite a bit, but I think the most important thing you consider right now, and I don't even know whether it's going to be an issue during construction phase, because bear in mind, we're not going to be dealing with the traffic, school traffic, until August of 2015. So I think it would be a mistake to make any precipitous decisions in the traffic flow, with the exception of changing, perhaps moving that one-way designation up to Fernwood Place at this point to possibly accommodate ease of entry for construction workers, et cetera, et cetera. That's one thing we might do. But, I mean, we have to start considering what we're going to do when the school opens. And it's probably not too early to start thinking about it, but it's way too early to implement a plan. One of the things that has been discussed was turning Yeaman Street into a 2-way street, thereby diverting traffic. Well, you have to think about it, because one way of diverting traffic from the Park Ave Broadway intersection for cars going both northbound on Broadway or intending to go, southbound on Broadway, and vehicles coming to take a left turn onto Park Ave would be to eliminate that left turn onto Park Ave and send them up Yeaman Street. And that would do quite a bit to remove the congestion that's already at the intersection of Park Ave, where we don't have a left-hand turn lane there going on northbound on Broadway. It's something to think about. The other thing that is going to have to be discussed at some point is whether or not, and people have suggested that we eliminate access to Broadway via the MBTA right away. I am definitely not in favor of that, because I think even at this point, that's a viable way to avoid that left-hand turn onto Broadway from Park Avenue if you intend to go further on. Even if you're going up Central Avenue, I use that and wait till the light changes green next to the fire station. Now, I don't know how that would impact, or how that does impact the fire department right now. It doesn't seem to be a problem from what I've seen.
The light is fine if people abide by the light.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, they take that other curb cut,
That's gotta be
which
closed.
fouls everything up, and that creates a gridlock.
That needs to be closed. That other curb cut needs to be closed, because there's nothing indicating that someone can't use it, and people do use it, and as the chief says, then that makes a gridlock situation when people can't actually get over onto Broadway. We should do that right now, really, put something there to prevent that from happening. Because the good thing about that intersection is there is a traffic control both ways, and it's a viable way to get off. But there's a lot of things we're going to have to think about down the road as far as diverting that traffic. The problem is we really don't know what problems we have until we experience them, but we should be ready to make some changes as they become necessary.
I think that Chief Doherty alluded to that we've dealt with this particular area. I've been here 15 years. It's got to be at least a dozen times that every year something comes up. So I think we really do need to be flexible and take those other recommendations and concerns that you have for your residents' council.
Little off subject right now, but it's pertinent to that particular intersection. We need to make that traffic signal going north on Broadway work better. And the way we need to do it is, the problem is this. Traffic turning left from Park Avenue onto Broadway going northbound cannot enter the lane going northbound because the traffic is allowed to fill that spot when the light cycle changes. So in other words, when the Park Avenue Broadway northbound light changes, so doesn't the Central Ave light, and the traffic remains filled in the lane. That northbound Central Avenue green has to stay green longer than at least 5 or 6 seconds after the red light changes at Park Avenue, because that is an enormous, especially at the busy times, that has the potential to absolutely create complete gridlock, and I've seen it happen on a couple of occasions. So I don't know whether we have the ability to do that, but we need to make that green stay green at Central Avenue at least 5 seconds after after it turns red on Park, because it's just there's no place for the people to take the left-hand turn. Simple as that. But that is a little off topic. But I think if you're going to make any changes right now, then I would suggest that extending that two-way traffic down to the Fernwood Place would be the thing to do. And the only thing the residents have told me, they absolutely do not want to see the rest of it turn into a two-way street. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Any other comments from the commission?
I agree. We got to do something in Yeaman Street. Like, it has to, and that's the only way. Traffic coming out of the school onto Park Ave, we're not going to allow them to take a left. Where are they going to go? Up to South Irving to cut down Reservoir or something crazy like that.
Yeah,
so
we did
have to do something.
Yeah, we did have discussions about that at site plan one time. We may have to do some, Chief, concerning parking on Yeaman Street to accommodate the two-way flow, because if you have parking on both sides, I don't believe you can get cars
down the Broadway
coming and going.
Yeah.
And and then again, it becomes a life cycle issue, because the people coming down Park Ave are not going to go to Park Ave. They're going to take the right on Yeaman. So there's something that would have to be done with the signalization at Yeaman and Broadway in front of City Hall, because you'll be taking that gridlock that now exists on Park Avenue and just transferring it over to Yeaman Street. So the street needs to...
But that Park Ave, even that light now, I've noticed people,
oh, I know.
They get cute. They're in both lanes to take the left now.
Yeah. And then they sneak
and they're
around.
Taking a right, and they're going around the right to take,
That's because of the double lane
yeah,
on Broadway, correct. Yeah. So all those things have been talked about. I just don't think, as Councilor Redden had mentioned, that this is a work in progress. It will continue to be a work in progress, but I think we need to put something in place now to accommodate, the construction of the school. So,
Mr. Chairman, I just had a few comments about that. I think that you definitely need to start talking about these types of improvements. It's not a situation where you're going to be able to implement them just when the school opens. If you're talking about doing any work with Yeamans, I think you hit it on the head. You're going to have to do some type of signalization at the end at Broadway. Right now, there is no signal there. You'd have to do some sort of rehabilitation of that. Also, if you talk about the traffic coming around the fire department, trying to come out across from Central Ave, right now, that parking lot, there's no designated travel lanes there. There's no striping or anything like that. It's just a big open space that people just drive wherever they want. If you're going to have any type of traffic directed out that way, you're going to have to do some type of improvements to sort of control the flow of traffic coming out that way. The other thing, I actually want to ask a question to Scott. Under this plan, that road that comes behind the fire station, that would be, coming out of school, would be no left turn that way, is that right?
back.
Right, so as you were coming out of the, you drop your kid off, you come out, you have to take a right towards Park?
Right here?
Yes.
Not go through the MBTA.
And not take a left and go down behind the,
I think he said it was emergency vehicles only.
okay.
Yeah, we were going to try to designate that as just MBTA buses and emergency, or fire department access.
But you don't have to take a right turn only here, you could loop back over this way.
And go down Fernwood?
Come back out Fernwood.
Okay, but at that entrance, you wouldn't be able to go any further than that furthest entrance. You wouldn't be able to go down behind the.
Yeah, right there, Nick.
Right.
Yeah, but that was where the Council Reardon said he was
Right.
against, right? The only reason why we did that, and we talked about that, was because it's kind of an undelineated type of a roadway, we felt that the kids, unless there was a sidewalk or something we could direct them to, that they would be just walking out in this no man's zone. And it's hectic. I mean, taxis alone, the way they cut through there, it's unbelievable. And the kids during, when the high school lets out, that's a real cut through. So it's going to be a tough one for that portion where the buses sit, how we handle that.
Right, and that was my point, that if you're going to direct traffic other than emergency and buses, then you need to do some type of remediation of that area, because there's no delineation or anything like that.
So we even talked about maybe with the T, if they can get rid of that little shed. And if they could get rid of the shed, then we could maybe set up a sidewalk all the way to Broadway. And then at least the kids would be funneled that way. And that would eliminate a lot of the problems.
Those meters that are along the guardrail there, are those public meters?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's another issue about not making it accessible. If you make this emergency vehicles and MBTA only, you take those.
Yeah,
those
that was a trade-off when we eliminated parking on Broadway to make it more conducive to take a right southbound and go up Park Ave. We eliminated meters there, and the businesses were upset because they didn't have the parking. So we transferred it. They took parking away from us again, the fire department, as you were taking away parking from us as well. And those meters were put in place. So it took us a long time to beat down the parking czar to stop ticketing the firefighters that were parked there. And now I imagine we can eliminate those meters as well and put in a sidewalk or something. But the businesses are looking for parking as well, right there, Park and Broadway.
Well, with the signage that's going in there, would there be any consideration of making that an hourly restriction? That it could be do not enter between certain hours when drop off and pick up?
We could try it, but I've enforceable. I don't see it. It's going to be brutal, yeah.
It's going to be a very tricky thing to handle, I think.
Well, it's the same thing, but this Fernwood Ave entrance, the original sign that we got, it showed that you could come in and out this way. This one lane here, but that is no longer the case.
That's the one we're going, hold that.
Okay. So our concerns are with the on-site circulation, so the vehicles can enter through Park Ave, and then they can go out Fernwood Ave. What we are suggesting is that you keep these two drop-off sites separate, and you eliminate any cross-contamination within the site. Okay, so.
You're in this area.
So our concern is with the on-site circulation going into school during drop-off and pickup. And what we are asking is that you restrict access to the two different drop-off areas. So if you come in on the Park Ave side, you exit out onto the Park Ave side. The same thing with the Fernwood Ave, because what we're afraid of, if you are walking, there's a couple of things. If you are walking you want to scooch over to get into the Park Ave parking lot, you might tie up the traffic this way with the cars waiting to get into the circle. Also, the kids crossing, coming up this way and trying to cross over to enter to the school grounds, you're creating a bottleneck between the students crossing and the cars trying to enter in.
But that's wide enough. We talked about this before in a previous meeting, and that was wide enough to actually make it two-way, and we changed it so that they couldn't come around. They had, when you come in off Fernwood, and you would come down and you had to U-turn back out. We're not letting them. We're not letting them. Did we change that back?
We changed this to one-way.
But it was wide enough initially to do two-way, correct?
It was wide enough to.
So it won't be a bottleneck.
As you mentioned, this is still two-way here.
Correct.
Cars can come through.
Correct.
Into this loop currently, and she's suggesting that not be allowed to sort of.
I think we have to do that. We have to, because there are parents that just are not going to want to let their children off at that point. They have to go to that drop-off.
But what I'm saying is you're going to create more of a bottleneck in this area, because if you have parents pulling in, and they will do this, there will be parents that say, okay.
We did that because according to Dr. Dakin and his people, that from that side of the district, there were less students coming from that direction. Right. People aren't going to want to fight that, taking that turn, going in. They're not going to go by the school to come down Fernwood to come in. And the majority of the students, 90% of them, are from south of that area.
Correct, but if you have people coming in this morning and you allow them to turn in, you will create a traffic issue this way. Same thing if they come up this way and you allow them to go, and this is the concern, if they come up Park Ave and you allow them to exit out to Fernwood Ave, if they come up Park Ave and they say, well, you know what, I gotta get to Fernwood Ave, but the entrance is over here, so I'm just gonna drop my kids off in the middle of the parking lot, but you gotta go right to get back out on the Fernwood Place to go out that way.
Yeah, but there has to be flexibility for the parents. You just can't shut everything off. We're going to have too many people coming in. If they get bogged down, they get bogged down. It's in a parking lot.
But the point is, you enter in through Park Ave, okay, and you wanna drop your kids off at the circle, you have to come up, around, and then go back around again. You're adding more cars into the circle that don't need to be there. If you want to come in, if you want to exit from Fernwood Ave, you're going back around twice. Unless you drop the kids off here and say, see you later.
Coming off Park Ave, is that one way? They can't
We-
go back out of Park Ave?
We allowed two ways out of back to Park Ave. One way in, and if they were coming back out, they were going to go out, and we were going to make them take a right-hand turn off Park Ave. It is allowed. There's also a large amount of cars that are going to go on Park Ave itself and allowed to discharge on the Park Ave side of the school, correct? And with the amount of cars that the traffic plan estimated, we are assuming it'll be heavy, but that it will be able to hold it.
This here is also intended to be a drop-off edge.
Correct.
They can stack up all the way to the.
Even the other side of the street, while we are not making it an unloading zone, it will become an unloading zone. And that would be traffic that would be going eastbound on Park towards Broadway, and that we're making that wider and serrated crosswalk for them to cut there, right there at Foster Street. That's going to happen. We don't have much choice with this parking lot and the turnaround. And that we're going to limit people from going out or in.
But so you are going to, or you will allow them to enter through Park Ave and exit.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's up to the parent. A lot of parents with a younger child, they want to be right there in that front door and see their kid walk in. And I mean, that's a regular thing with the Wayland School, the Susan B. Anthony, all of them. I know, so that.
And then the other thing that we are suggesting is that you keep this access road to the MBTA closed to the traffic at all times, because you will have a bottleneck again, and then cut out through this way to get back onto Broadway.
We can't. We got to let them in there. No, going in, but they have to go in. You don't want them to go in?
They can go in, but what I'm saying is you should restrict access to this MBTA road so that they can't turn off.
Well, that's going to, we want to, but that's going to be extremely difficult because we have to allow the buses. We have to allow the fire apparatus.
Absolutely. Your vehicles, yeah.
I know, but unless we have a police officer there, you know, it's gonna be difficult. I mean, we're trying. We'll do signage. We talked about signage.
Okay. So as of right now, the traffic can go in Park Ave, parking lot, and go out Fernwood Ave?
Well, this is one way. So as you mentioned before, if they come in from Park Avenue and they're dropping off in front of the school, they would drop off here and they would come back. And most likely, I would think, they would return from the origin because that's the easiest way out of the site, and this is gonna be dense during drop-off and pickup time. But they do have the option of looping around and coming back up here and coming out.
And that's why Yeaman Street is critical to make that a two-way, because now that at least, because we're preventing them from taking the left to get to Broadway, at least they can go up to Yeaman and then get to Broadway.
Okay, yeah. And there's no thoughts to restrict that during the drop-off time, the pickup time, just this crazy circle of going in and out and back around if they choose to?
We've done these plans many times. When the Susan B opened up, the Garfield opened up. We've had plans, general plans, let everything go through. And then first day of school opened up. We're all going to watch what's going on. Go to the school to Congress, we'll have to.
I agree, Chris, because we had that consideration about Fernwood Avenue. You know, the way you want to deny the way that they're just going to push them back onto Broadway. They're going to come down Park Avenue. You're going to have gridlock coming into the entrance, as opposed to, and like Chief Doherty said, the number of parents that they think is going to come from the other side is only about 10% of the student population is going to be coming for that. So to deny, and out of that 10%, how many of them are actually going to, you know, take a vehicle to the school in the morning? So to add an additional 10% more traffic and force everything in through Park Avenue, it just didn't seem sensible for the fact that there may be a couple of people that may want to swing back around, like you said, twice and create that bottleneck. But like Chris said, there hasn't been a school that we built that we don't critique it. At some point in time, like he said, we'll review what's going on, try to learn the new patterns that are created by the parents utilizing the school, and we will adapt to that and make changes as necessary, always in view of taking care of the safety issues for the kids. And that's basically how we approach these things. You know, this is not etched in stone. If we say that, you know, this is our plan and this is the way it's going to be forever, that has never been the case. We've, like I said, every single school that's come has developed their own patterns, and occasionally, you know, over the course of time, the dynamics change. You may be getting kids from a different area, so if the population shifts from 90% from the south side of the school to, you know, say 40% to the northern side of the school, then you have to adapt your traffic patterns to accommodate the flow of the children. So, and we will do that when and if that happens.
Because the way this whole situation stands now, you're giving the drivers a lot of choices, which is going to create more confusion for everyone, and it's just going to create more traffic, more cars within the small area with people trying to go every which way, because you're allowing them to do so. So that's the question that we're concerned with.
I don't think you're taking into consideration the drop-off lanes along Park Avenue, almost the entire length of the stadium, where people are going to drop there instead of getting themselves into that flow, and they'll drop it off and go.
Once again, there are going to be a large percentage of parents who will need to see their child walk in that door, and they don't care how many teachers are out here.
There's also a main entrance on the side there that they can come right in through there, so that...
This is not, no matter who you have out there, you could have every police officer in the city out here escorting the kids into the building from Park Ave. They are going to want to see their child go right into the building.
They can also watch them go right in through on Park Avenue. There's a door right on the side.
Right.
No, not right where your finger is, down here. Point it out to us, Scott. Right here. That's the main entrance into the school. The kids can drop off along the edge and enter the school from the side. No, we don't allow that at the Lincoln School. We don't allow it at the, yeah. We drop off and make them go. So that's what we do with other schools.
So we need to enforce that. So if you can enforce this, and hopefully this will lead it, but you're still giving them a lot of options within this area.
Sure.
But it's just for the pickup and drop off. We're not saying for the
We
whole
understand.
day.
Yeah.
Part of the development of the plan is just to give flexibility in terms of how we can adapt it once it's occupied, and once we see how the traffic patterns are working. Because this plan does give us a lot of flexibility, but that flexibility for the actual vehicles, once it's in operation, might be adapted so that it's a little bit more controlled and everyone has to do, has fewer options and everybody's going in the same direction. A lot of people have to see.
Okay, well, thank you.
Members of the commission, what are the,
I just had a question about the crosswalk location on Park Avenue. I'm Stacy Butel. I work with Walk Boston and Julie Tomorrow and the Walk to School program here in Revere. My question is, there is a crosswalk both here and here. Why is the crosswalk on this side of the entrance and not on this side? Because if you're a child walking here, you then will only have to cross traffic once as opposed to twice.
It probably has to do with the driveways that are across the street.
Okay.
That's actually a sort of open issue that we were looking at that with our engineers, is that we may want to consider this location as well, but I think, what Chief already mentioned, I think it did.
30 Park Ave, there's two driveways right there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that it hits one of them, I believe. Yeah.
It goes right into the driveway. That's why we have to move it on the other side.
Okay.
And there are drainage issues as well over there that needs to be addressed. And there's also a bus stop.
Right here.
Right. On the other side of the park.
There was a bus stop we moved originally from 7 Park Ave up the street. Again, to accommodate additional parking for the businesses.
Great, okay. As long as you're used to seeing that and making that consideration. That's helpful. Thank you.
I think right now, like we've dealt with the Paul Revere, in my opinion, this is the best laid plan until we get harassed later. But we have to try this and work it out. And as Sergeant Janino says, with the Susan B. Anthony, we did that right, and reassessed it and put up roadblocks and barriers, and we actually changed even the direction of flow. I still don't believe it takes place at the Susan B. Anthony. You got to drive in on the left and drive out on the right or something. It's really crazy. But I think this is the best plan for now, barring other board members. Yeah. It is. It's going to be. There's a certain point. There's going to be a little choke point up there at that Fernwood Place, and it's going to be the school district educating their parents. And Paul Revere, 75% of the problem down in Paul Revere is the parents that just don't want to pay attention to the rules. So this is going to be the same way.
Scott, I think you eliminate that choke point that the chief is talking about by putting that second lane in Fernwood Place. Then you allow those cars that want to do what Julie said and drop off there to continue right out onto Fernwood Ave and not interfere with the cars coming out of the second parking lot going out.
Also, with that, you can go all the way around and then take a left onto Fernwood, and then if you want to, you can go all the way down to Austin, take a left, and then take a left onto Park, and then you can go down to that light of Broadway if you like. I mean, I come that way in the morning. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're a parent and that's what you want to do, then you still have that option.
do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it.
So right now, the only change we're making is Fernwood Ave.
Correct.
Two-way, the school from Fernwood Place to Broadway. Fernwood Place to be a one-way northerly. And as far as the other signs, those are going to wait until...
Yes, to the school, yeah.
So two changes right now, and then the change will take place afterwards?
Yeah, so obviously there needs to be some work on Yeaman and some of those other issues that have to be dealt with. But for the time being, obviously during the construction phase of this, we need to make those changes now. Yeah.
They're all empty.
Are they all empty? I thought there was still one.
One family.
No, there's one.
Scott,
That's what
one
I
other
thought.
thing. There is going to be a fence delineating Fernwood Place from Walgreens parking lot all the way. So they're not going to cut through the lot, take a hard right, go up where the prescription pickup drop-off is, and then shoot to Broadway?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is going to be a fence, right?
Well,
right?
we can certainly detail it. We can answer.
Oh, but that's beyond the district plan?
Frank and I were discussing this yesterday.
Yeah.
I just emphasized that we could put in a detail into the drawings and buy it. That's not a problem. But the issue is that the property line right now would be sort of in the middle of where the island would be. So if you wanted to put in a fence and finish that detail properly across there, you have to extend the east curve and the west curve, right? So you'd extend the curb on that side, the west side, and extend the curb on the east side. And then you have the fence running right along the property line, right? So it means two things. One is that I think that we would need to verify that this isn't gonna impact their operations at all in the back, because they take in both trash and tractor trailer deliveries in the rear. And also, we would need to do whatever we would need to do to get approval to do improvements on their site as well. Because we would have to, if we put a curb on our side on Fernwood Place, we would also have to put a curb on the other side to hold whatever mulch or grass or whatever we put into that area. So with those two things, if it's verified that we can do this, in regards to Walgreens operation, if that's a consideration, I don't know. And secondly, if we can get approval that we can do work on their site, we can certainly throw a detail onto the drawings to buy that.
Our recommendation is to do that, and we talked about this yesterday, have some sort of barrier there to prevent vehicles from taking that right. It could be a wooden guardrail right in the roadway, something as simple as that. But we got to work that out. But I think the commission is telling you that we want that closed off.
Okay. Well, we should get a little bit more input from you in terms of what detail we should implement there. It could certainly be a wooden guardrail, and we can put the wooden guardrail right into the pavement. You wouldn't necessarily have to do the curbs and the bed and all that. That would at least stop cars from passing through there, but we still have, it could still be, passed through by pedestrians.
I believe Walgreens will want some kind of barrier because it'll be more conducive to their business as well. They're not going to want the kids and people and cars cutting through their parking lot. Just their own liability.
We can work out the details, but that's what we want. It's going from a dead-end street now to an active
We also talked
road.
yesterday, which I thought was an idea worth consideration. I didn't get a chance to talk to my landscape architect about this. They were possibly doing a Cape Cod berm on either side, something where you wouldn't have to cut in and place new curbs, but do like a Cape Cod berm on both sides and mulch or something across it, and then with the guardrail on top of that. That would dress it up a little bit, make it a little bit more attractive.
I think you're going to need to do something to discourage pedestrian traffic, mostly the kids. They're going to take the path of least resistance, and if you got drop-off, pickup, vehicle traffic going through, guardrails are going to stop them. I think you're going to have a safety issue there as well. So I think we need something a little more significant than a wooden guardrail.
You're always a gentleman. Thank you. Council Reardon, thank you. Okay. Item number 1 is a request to... going to take up item number 4 for our friend here on Milano Avenue. He's been sitting here quietly for the last 2 hours. Item number 4 is the mayor's office requests the stop sign be placed at the intersection of Roland Road and Milano.
Oh, I did speak
How
to
are
the
you,
mayor
sir?
too, see? Actually, there would have been 5 other neighbors here, but I didn't realize they'd be here at 20 minutes to 6. So, the thing is, one of the neighbors came up with a good idea. I don't know if it'll pass through or not. He had said from Roland Road, where you can now Roland Road and take the left and the right on Toscano, that little section, make it one way. Share the traffic with Geneva and Ashley and the rest of them. Everybody's using the Wayland School in the morning and the Wayland School in the afternoon. I can't back out of my yard at the corner of Roland Road. People stop and scream at me. We got cameras in the house. I got movies of it.
Right.
So it's getting worse. And I'm going to say for 16 years, I was on Milano Ave. 3 years now, I'm right on the corner of Roland Road. The stop signs that are up by Philomena, I think I requested something like that probably 15 years ago when Casella was consul. And I think they got put in the wrong place because I want to know who comes out of Philomena and who flies. You know what I'm saying? They should have been put where I want them right now. Because when I lived at 81 Milano, it was the same thing. People come down Roland Road, flying at night. And they fly up it in the morning. They come down, and when they go to the right, if somebody's coming and there's a car parked there, I get the cars almost into my house on 81. Now I back out, like I'm halfway out in the street, and they're blowing the horn and yelling at me. Because I'm wrong, I'm trying to back out of the driveway. Kid upstairs owns a Lexus. He comes out of the garage in the morning, and he's got a movie of where 2 cars slammed their brakes on just last week, coming around the corner flying. So, I mean, it's just, I've been asking for it for 16 years. I've been saying something about it. But now I got the neighbors that said they would come. But, like I said, I thought it was at the police station myself. 4 o'clock I was up there. But that's my request.
Well, I just want to be certain on this, Chris, maybe you can look into a little more. You want the stop sign on Roland Road as it approaches Milano, correct?
For traffic on Roland. Right, where it comes around,
Yeah.
where it goes up the Roland. It comes
Right.
off Milano and beers right on Roland where they fly around me. Right, I'm right on the corner there. No. Well, actually, that should be too, but what I'm saying is when they come off Toscano, they come down Green Tree, right on Toscano, left on Milano, and right on Roland. The mayor sees it. I asked him at the voting belt, and he said the same thing. He sees the traffic there in the morning. I mean, they do it to shortcut, stop the crossing guards and everything up at the schools. That's what they're doing. And they're doing the same thing at night on the way home. But at night, I'm not out anyways. I'm all late now. But I'm saying in the morning, it's atrocious, that corner.
On Roland at Milano.
On Roland at Milano.
Roland's the through street.
Yeah, I want it on Milano going up towards Malden Street. Going up, right at the corner where I parked my car with the fences, right.
You're saying that people come north and they don't stop, they just take the turn onto Roland without stopping?
Like the stop sign is down at Toscano now.
Right.
The guy
Okay, but that's what you said, okay.
97 Toscano, he was out last night talking to me. He says the same thing. He won't even park on the street. He's afraid to because they come flying around there too, and somebody coming the other way, they're flying. They don't stop at that stop sign, so I mean, I know it ain't gonna help, but I'm just saying, the fellow at 97 had the right idea, and I thought it was great myself, because it would share the traffic, like I said, Geneva and Ashley, to go up to Malden Street. Then they wouldn't all be trying to get that shortcut to get up to Malden Street to go by Vinnie's Market up that way. That's what they do. They try to avoid all the crossing guards.
Makes sense.
But this has been going on for years.
Understood. At this time, I'll make a motion to send this to a public hearing so we can move it along.
Okay.
All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Like I said, you've got options, one way or the other. Let's do
Okay.
something, you know?
Very good. Thanks again. We'll go back to the public hearing aspect of the request to amend Schedule 11 of Title 10 handicap persons parking areas by adding 24 Larkin Street. Chris, have you had a chance to out and...
Unfortunately, I went by today, 24 Larkin Street, and there was a 2-car driveway with a vehicle with an HP plaque hanging from the window, parked in the driveway. Yeah, but I don't. The problem we're having right now with the HP signs in the parking is it's all getting referred over to traffic division, and I don't know where they're coming from.
Chris, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to
We've
make
never
a motion to lay this on the table this evening till we could do some investigation into whether the people who own the house actually have the car registered with the two-car driveway. Mass General Law does not allow a car that's registered to a house that has parking on site. I don't see how we can make exceptions to that rule. Yeah, geography, yes. So I think a little bit more investigation needs to go into this. I make a motion, we lay it on the table to the next council meeting. Obviously, the handicapped person is not impeding the out parking, according to Sergeant Giannino, in their driveway. They just look, it seems to me that they might be looking for an additional parking. And that this is something we've been trying to avoid. And so if you want, Chris, I'll go out there, we can figure it out, and we'll have a conversation with the council. Okay? All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Okay, item number 1 is a request for a public hearing to install parking signs at the following locations: 785 Winthrop Ave, 1129 North Shore Road, on Beachland Avenue, and 129 Charger Street. I make a motion that we move this to a public hearing. Do I have a second? Second. Aye. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Move to a public hearing. Item number 2 is request from the mayor's office to remove the remaining parking meters on Yeaman Street. It's already been done. Okay. Item number 3 is Council Order 13174 by Council Pass. Request a stop sign be placed on Grover Street for eastbound traffic at Charger and on Charger Street for northbound traffic at Grover Street.
That should be about completed. Don't we have stop signs everywhere up there?
That whole area, almost every single intersection has a
That might be the
stop
last
sign.
intersection.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Public hearing.
Well, public hearing. I make a motion, we move to a public hearing. Second. Aye. The ayes have it. Item number 5, the M&GH on Broadway is requesting the sign for the shuttle bus be moved from 300 Broadway to its new location at 385 Broadway.
Well, that's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. We can't use Broadway, 385, as a shuttle bus stop, because that's a lane. That's the lane.
That's the lane.
They want to put on Central.
They're going to have to do Central pretty far up, up at their parking lot.
Yeah, right between the two parking lot driveways.
Yeah.
You can do it there.
Yeah, this is ordered to a public hearing anyway, so. I have a second. All those in favor?
They moved the T-stop
Aye, the
way
ayes
up.
have it.
Yeah.
Item number 6, Council Order 13-195 by Council Penta to have 2-hour parking on Vinyl Street between Broadway and Wilson from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. At this time, I make a motion that we move this to a public hearing. I have a second. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. Move to council. Item number 7, Council Order 13241 by Council Novoselsky to post no parking signs on the easterly side from Revere Beach Parkway to 21 Hillside Ave. At this time, I make a motion that we refer this to a public hearing. I have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. That be moved to a public hearing. Motion to adjourn. We got a late. You didn't tell us we had late.
I got one late communication from the mayor's office regards to placing a stop sign at the intersection of Hyde and Cheever Street and having a do not enter sign placed at the intersection also. Stop sign out back. I'll look it up.
I thought Somebody came in a meeting ago and talked about that, and you, Sergeant Janino, told us it was on the books.
I make a motion, we order this to a public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Not voted. Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.